In today's video, we're taking a look at the latest news and rumors from around the NHL. Tonight, we're looking at the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Ottawa Senators, the Montreal Canadiens, and the Seattle Kraken. Plus, we had a scary situation tonight in the Leafs and Blue Jackets game. Several other injury updates as well, and some updates to the Team Canada roster at the World Juniors. We'll get into all the latest news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Of course, as you can see, we're once again going with a Christmas themed backdrop here instead of the normal location I normally do my recording in. So certainly hope you're all having a great holiday season as we prepare for Christmas. So if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to you. If not, I certainly hope you enjoy whatever holidays you do celebrate. And get into today's news. First up, I want to start with a scary situation we saw tonight between the Jackets and the Maple Leafs game. There was, I believe, 18 seconds or so left in the first period, and Sean Kuraly of the Blue Jackets got hit. Well, that's when the period stopped, was 18 seconds. So shortly before that, there was a play in behind the Leafs net where Kuraly got hit. He got hit, I believe it was Jake McCabe. It looked like there could have been combination of shoulder and head contact. Wasn't really sure. Happened kind of quick. But then right after the hit, like you can tell he's kind of shaken up. McCabe skates away, but then the puck comes right back around and he gets hit like in the chest area. And he went off on his own, but he was kind of, the way he went off, he was kind of hunched over and looked like he was having some difficulty. And then apparently once he got to the bench, he started to go down the tunnel. Then you heard there was a whole bunch of players calling for EMTs and for emergency help. So we did hear later that he was going to be totally fine. And it was more for precautionary reasons. So I don't know exactly what transpired or happened once he went down the tunnel. I just know a lot of people were really concerned and kind of a little bit freaked out over what happened because it wasn't quite clear. Like, you know, he seemed to go off on his own. Next thing you know, everybody's yelling for medical help. So, good news is, like, I think he's going to be all right. Like, everything coming out of Columbus was that it was precautionary and that he's going to be fine. As far as the exact extent of everything going on with him, we don't know. But at least it was positive news after that happened. Like I said, they stopped the period early. They sent everybody to the dressing rooms. And it was kind of, like I said, a very scary, delicate situation. But at least it turned out to have a better outcome than it could have been. So hope Sean Kuraly's okay. I know for friends and family of the player, it's got to be tough to watch when you're watching, especially if you're watching on TV and you know you got to wait and harder to get updates and stuff. So yeah, tough situation, but at least it's a positive outcome. We got another update today on Ducks rookie Leo Carlsson. We knew that he had a knee leg injury of some sort from the other night, and it was relatively serious, but we didn't know how bad. There were some concerns initially that it could be season ending. They were hoping it wasn't like a blown ACL, and it wasn't. It was actually the MCL that was injured, so they're calling it a grade 1 MCL sprain, which is probably the best possible outcome if you're going to, if you know there's an injury in that part of your body, that's a little easier to get over. It's 4 to 6 week recovery time, so that's certainly good news on him. It could have been much worse, not only for the season of Leo Carlsson, the season of the Ducks, but obviously the more injuries these players go through, it does affect their ability to be their full capable self, right? So good news on that front. We did get some updates as well regarding the World Juniors. Team Canada announced today they had to make some adjustments to their roster, which they're allowed to do. They're still in pre-tournament play. Due to some injuries, they had a couple defensemen be hurt and are not going to be able to participate, which is really an absolute major bummer for them. I'm sure this was, for a lot of these players, this is something they look forward to and dream about as children, and then to grow up and get a chance to be on your national team for the World Juniors, and then to get hurt before the tournament even starts is, I'm sure that's really tough. But for Tanner Molendyk and for Tristan Luneau, that's unfortunately what's transpired, and they're not going to be able to participate here for Canada. So in their place, Canada has added Sens prospect defenseman Jorian Donovan, and they've also added Ty Nelson as well. So for Nelson and Donovan, it's like an early Christmas present to be able to come join their national team and get ready here. So obviously for Canada, these guys were cut, so you could say that it's a bit of a downgrade, but these are still very good, promising-looking prospect defenseman, and I know that they should be able to step in and do a pretty good job for their country. So I do suspect that Canada is going to have a tough time to defend the gold medal, and I think Sweden's probably the favorites for me, with the Americans going to give them the best run. I think the Americans have a real good shot at gold as well. At this point, I think Canada probably has a good shot at a medal, but if they go any higher than bronze, I'll probably be a little bit surprised. Getting Matt Poitras from the Bruins did help, but they're lacking that star power that they've had in years past, especially with Macklin Celebrini. I believe he's facing a suspension for a bad hit that he delivered during pre-tournament play as well, so that's going to hurt if he has to sit out a few games at the start of the tournament. So we'll see where that goes, but update to Canada there. Some more changes in Minnesota Wild's front office, and this is kind of getting, a little concerning after everything we've heard out of Minnesota in the past few weeks. Of course, we knew that there was some, multiple internal investigations going on. So the Minnesota Wild have parted ways mutually, according to the reports, with Director of Team Operations Andrew Heidt. I think that's how you pronounce his name, Heydt. With the organization for a decade, like I said. And according to Michael Russo, who's the beat writer for the Wild for The Athletic, he says that he is the individual who accused GM Bill Guerin of verbal abuse. So I really hope that this is really is mutually terminated and not a case, because when you hear of like harassment cases or any kind of those types of HR issues in the workplace, and then you hear the person making the complaint being let go, like that sounds like it could be perceived as retaliation, right? And that's certainly against the law. And I'm sure I'm not accusing anybody in Minnesota of breaking the law in that sense. I just hope that it doesn't get ugly and that they really, all the terms, everything are mutually agreed upon like they're supposed to be, because that could get ugly real quick in a court of law. But yeah, obviously some big changes in Minnesota Wild's front office lately because of these complaints and investigations that have been going on. We do know that Bill Guerin was cleared and able to remain within the position. Now, I can't say for certain that he was cleared of everything. We don't know that. We just know that he was not found to be guilty of anything through the investigations that was a fireable offense. Whether or not there was feedback for him and changes they want him to make, I have no idea. We don't know that. But certainly, the team already had a fairly thin front office, and to lose, an AGM and now Director of Operations, certainly a big hit. So, hopefully they can get things changed there in Minnesota and move forward. And this is the last we hear of any more departures. At least we hope so. In Detroit, we know David Perron has returned from his suspension. We already know that he had his suspension appealed to Gary Bettman, which is the commissioner, which is the first step in that process. When you're suspended more than 5 games, it can also be reviewed by an arbitrator, third party who's independent, and Perron and the NHLPA are pushing that. So that will be taking place after Christmas. So you will see a case of Perron's, getting this reviewed further. Now, of course, we already know he's missed the 6 games that he was suspended, and so he can't take that back. That can't change, of course, because that's past tense now. But, of course, they do forfeit money. They don't get paid for those games that they have to sit out due to suspension, and if this is overturned and the ruling is changed, then he can get money back in his pocket. So there's certainly a major financial benefit to going through that process. So that is expected to take place for sure. Anaheim Ducks forward Trevor Zegras returns tonight as well for Anaheim. He's been out. They've been missing a fair bit of players, especially after losing Leo Carlsson. They just got back Drysdale McTavish the other night, so they're starting to get healthy again, which will help them. Obviously having a tough season near the bottom of the standings. You want to get their young players in the lineup as much as possible, certainly from an entertainment standpoint and selling tickets and all that. Certainly, obviously, and better for their development. Of course, you want them to be healthy. You want them to be able to appear in all the games. Also tonight, in tonight's action, Chicago, we saw a beautiful Connor Bedard Michigan-style goal. If you haven't seen that, check out the highlights. Bedard certainly going to be the leader and tough to beat for Rookie of the Year for the Calder Trophy this year. He just continues to be dominant and impress night after night. Imagine when that team gets better and he gets some help. He's going to be a dominant player in this league for a long time to come. Now, with the trade rumor section of the video, I do want to take a look at a few things. Some of it comes from the Saturday headline segment on Hockey Night Canada tonight. A few other items from TSN Insider Trading, as well as some other articles around different hockey websites. Now, one I want to address right off the bat is the Ottawa Senators. A couple things for Ottawa, actually. First up, Elliotte Friedman addressed their coaching situation on Saturday headlines tonight, talking about the fact that Jacques Martin is fully expected, but things can always change, but fully expected at this point to remain head coach on an interim basis for the remainder of the season for the Senators. That there's certainly a lot of other candidates they'd like to talk to, but many of them are unlikely to get permission to do that during the season because they're already working in the league in other capacities or in the American Hockey League as well. And it doesn't make sense really at this point. If Jacques Martin it's going to take him time to get things really turned around and get a lot of those bad habits changed and worked out of the system here. So we'll see where that goes. I mean, whether or not Jacques Martin has interest in coaching beyond the season, also unknown, given the fact he hasn't been in the NHL for a few years. Hasn't been too long, but it's been a long time since he's been a head coach. And he is 71 years old now, so I mean, maybe he is more interested in being more of just a senior advisor, consultant type. Maybe he'd like to go back to being an assistant. Who knows? Maybe he, works with Alfie. Maybe Alfie becomes a candidate as a head coach in the offseason. That would be interesting as well. I do think long term that is a possibility of something we could see, but how quickly? Hard to say. Alfredson may stay on as an assistant coach for under the new regime if Martin does indeed only coach for the rest of this year. We'll have to wait and see where that goes. But when it comes to their potential trades you might see of Ottawa, there's lots of talk about them in different sites and reporters because they're not doing well. And when they're not doing well, especially when you get reporters and hockey websites that cover other teams, when they try to spread rumors, of course, that's what they do. They look and say, okay, well, this team's not doing very well. Who might they trade? And they kind of make a wish list, so to speak. And one of those players that's getting a lot of play and attention right now is Jacob Chychrun, and I honestly don't understand where this is coming from. There was absolutely nobody with sources or legit connections to suggest the Senators would consider trading Chychrun, but there are some people out there who think they should. And to be honest, I think this is just a case of people wanting to get him on other teams, and I don't blame him. He's a really good defenseman. But he's been there. This was not even a full season. He came, obviously, late last season. First full year right now. He's got family in the area. He's got a great contract. When Shabbat and Sanderson were both out, he's playing 30 minutes a night. Versatile guy. Got 7 goals on the season now. Plays big minutes. A lot of players have not had to start to the season and they wanted to, but Chychrun is far from being part of the issue with the Sens. And I just don't think it makes any sense whatsoever for them to move him. Now, like I said before, players on expiring deals, if they're not sure that they're mutually wanting to extend those players, whether it be Kubalik or maybe Tarasenko, that was at least more logical because, like I said, they're not signed beyond the current season. They'll have conversations, and if they don't think the player fits long term, which I think is a good case in Kubalik, they probably will have talks and maybe move him. Tarasenko, I think there would be interest to keeping him, but we don't know if that interest is mutual. Does he want to stay in Ottawa? Because there was reports that he originally did have a multi-year offer from Carolina. He took a 1-year prove-it deal with Ottawa instead after the Carolina deal wasn't on the table anymore. But we don't really know the ins and outs there. Obviously there was been no public discussions around that. So does he want to stay? We don't know. I think there would be probably interest on Ottawa's side. He's played well. Been a good productive player for them. It's going to boil down to contract and money, but they'll have those conversations as we get closer to the deadline. And if it's not looking like they're going to be able to work something out, then he could be dealt. But for players with term like Chychrun, there's no substance to that whatsoever. If you're a Sens fan, you're hearing Chychrun trade rumors, I would not worry too much about that. Pierre LeBrun of TSN's reporting that he feels that there's a good chance and really justified here that Evgeny Kuznetsov in Washington desperately needs a fresh start. Things are not going well again this year for Kuznetsov and the Capitals. However, he says as much as they would be interested in finding a way to move on, the contract and his play combined are making it extremely difficult. So as much as they're going to have conversations with other teams, they're probably going to have to look at retaining, but it's going to get expensive for a team to acquire him because of the money that they're going to have to take on to do it. And as much as for everybody involved, I think it's probably a great idea to do it. It just seems probably pretty unlikely. I think once we get through this season, next offseason, they'd be down to the 1 more year. I do wonder if they consider a buyout. At that point, that might be the easier way around it, or maybe they'll retain and do a trade with 1 year left. But yeah, as much as both parties are at a point again where they think they want to mutually part ways, it's just really difficult and challenging, and never say never, but it's just not looking good that they're going to be able to pull that off right now. And the Seattle Kraken are apparently a team that we've seen, according to insider trading, I've seen Pierre LeBrun talk about this as well, that the Kraken are a team that's been engaged with Montreal about multiple goaltenders. Not only Jake Allen, but Caden Primo as well. We know the Kraken are not getting good solid goaltending. They're obviously struggling a bit this year. They've had Grubauer, who's injured right now. Decord has been playing good, but had his moments too. Chris Driedger's been down in the minors, obviously up due to injury, but not really living up to the standards either. Belief is for them to acquire another goaltender, Chris Driedger is going to have to be the guy to go. I don't know that Montreal is going to want to take on another goaltender, though, so I don't see them wanting to trade like Allen or Primo and have Driedger coming back, unless they strictly want Chris Driedger to play for Laval in the AHL. Unless they put him through waivers and are content to do that. That would be the only way that they would take it. But with his salary, they're going to end up paying out more because he's making like $3 million. But the Kraken are another team. We talked about the Devils, the Hurricanes being teams that are, reportedly in the mix for the Montreal goaltenders. But we've mainly heard Jake Allen's name being out there. But for the Kraken, it does make sense where they're at with their team, a few years into their history here, for wanting a guy like Primo. They have some good assets there that might be intriguing to Montreal. I don't think that the Habs really went out there looking for a Primo trade. But if they get the right offer from Seattle, I can see them considering it. But I do think it's more likely that Jake's the guy. And I'm not sure that Seattle makes the most sense, to be completely honest, for him. I think if he's going to get moved, it would make more sense to go for, potential cup run. And there's not in that predicament right now. So we'll see where that goes. And on Saturday Headline Sunday as well, Elliot Friedman did touch on the Maple Leafs and their goaltending situation, saying that after the holiday roster freeze here in a couple days, that he does expect the Leafs to kind of be dipping their toes, is the term he used, into the goalie market, with Joseph Woll's injury and Samsonov being incredibly inconsistent and struggling. Martin Jones has been kind of getting more playing time, and I guess they have to decide if they need to add to that or not. Obviously, Samsonov, I think, has been making them feel a little uneasy, and they have Dennis Hildeby in the minors, but they don't really want to rush him and bring him up. So getting some, another goalie in there might be something that they do consider, although I do think they'd rather prioritize other positions. I kind of wonder if they'll try to hold on here. I mean, Elliott said that he doesn't expect them to rush into anything. They're just, like he said, they're kind of dipping their toes, just trying to gauge the market. And he said that the teams that have the excess goaltenders right now, that have somebody they can move, whether it be Montreal, Detroit, or one of those other, well, Detroit's got goalie injuries now, but so they'll probably hold off on making a move. But like any of the teams that have somebody, they know there's not a lot out there, and that they're asking a lot, which is making the market kind of be slow at moving here right now. But at the end of the day, the Leafs might want to inquire on some goalie insurance. That does make some sense. But I think they'd have to move out Samsonov to do it. He's on the final year of his contract, only had a 1-year deal this offseason with the Leafs. So as we've talked about in recent days, I do think that there's a real possibility that the Leafs could trade Samsonov. But I think the goal here will be to hold off until Wall gets back if they can. And then they either go with Wall Jones, or they go with Wall and whoever they acquire and have Jones as the number 3 still. But Samsonov has to go to make that happen. That's the thing. If Jones plays well enough, maybe they move Samsonov for other pieces, because they certainly want to acquire on the blue line too. So we'll see where that goes. But the Leafs are certainly in the goalie market, confirmed by Elliot Friedman, and we've talked about Samsonov from recent days. So just want to touch on the fact that very well connected insider is talking about the same sort of thing, saying it's something they're looking into. So we'll see what happens. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, of course, is Christmas Eve. Expect a World Juniors preview type video coming here soon before Boxing Day. Tonight's the last night for NHL action for a few days, but World Juniors coming up as well. So stay tuned for that, and we'll be able to hopefully see some trade activity shortly after the roster freeze when things get back to normal here on December 28th. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.